Hey, welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing a garden progress video. So we're going to go back to early in the spring, end of winter when we first started the garden, and then I'm going to show you where it is now to show you the progress and also harvest and process some of what we have growing in the garden. Now this is going to be ongoing for the next few weeks until we finish and wrap up harvesting this garden, clean it up, and hopefully start our fall winter garden, which I will also share that entire process. But let's go back to the beginning. If you've been following my channel, back at the end of winter, very early spring, we decided to start the plants indoors. I think we were just so excited to get the garden going that we had some seeds and we decided to try indoor with lights and a little greenhouse and all of that. So we started that. I do have a video on that process and you may recognize some of this footage. But we were so happy to start to see the progress inside, and then we moved these to a little bit bigger pots later into the spring. Byron planted the trees. We have about 13 trees on the property. He got those in the ground, and we were just really excited to feel the weather slowly warming up and really get the garden moving. As the starters were growing, they were growing out of their little home in the greenhouse, and we put them in larger containers. We would bring them outside and allow them to harden, but if temperatures dropped below, we would bring them inside for the night. Some of them we planted in the GreenStalk garden. Most of those were winter hardy, so it was okay if they were kept outside and the temperatures dropped, and we could harvest early into the spring from the GreenStalk garden. We also saw the property changing, the trees were growing, and as soon as we could, we moved the starters to the ground. And that's after the last frost. So you can find those dates usually on the Farmer's Almanac, or even I follow Facebook gardening pages, and you just look at your garden zone for when your last frost date will be. Once we were past that, we could bring them and put them in the ground for their final home. The little plants that started in the house that were so fragile are now in the ground and growing rapidly. And as you can see here, I'm actually pruning the tomatoes to do what is called a 2-liter prune. So basically pruning any unwanted shoots and leaves so that there are just 2. And that really just allows the energy. It's supposed to, well, everybody does it a little bit different when it comes to tomatoes, and we're of course still experimenting, but this is what we do and we prune it in this way. But you'll see later in the video, the garden is absolutely out of control. The weeds are out of control. The garden is crazy. So in the next few weeks, we're just gonna harvest and completely clean up and start a fresh fall garden. But you'll see here that I was pruning all of the shoots and branches so that there are just 2. And we tried a string method to hold up the tomatoes, but unfortunately we didn't keep up with the pruning the way that we should have with the tomatoes or really with the melons. We did get a pretty decent harvest, but we may have done better if we did a better job keeping up with the pruning. With an in-ground garden, weed pressure is definitely a concern, something that we tried to keep up with to a certain point, but at some point it just kind of gets out of control, especially we got a lot of rain, and I think in order to really reduce weed pressure, we're going to have to tarp throughout the winter and possibly through a garden season if we want to continue doing in-ground gardening. But the garden is pretty wild, but there is lots to harvest, and over the last few weeks and the coming weeks, I will be sharing how we harvest, how we preserve, how we enjoy, and how we share our harvest, because that is why we love to grow herbs and food, so that we can share it, so that we can enjoy it, and that we can preserve it. And it is a bit of a discipline for sure, and something that we've learned over the years of gardening, but it is a joy in the end, and we really love it. So our first official garden season in Tennessee has been a success, but as you can see, the garden is quite overgrown, but look at how much goodness there is.
So there's a stem right here, and if you track it all the way down, there should be a tiny, like a little sprout that comes out.
Oh, yeah.
And if it's green, it's not the watermelon's not ready. But if it's dried up, the watermelon's ready.
Nice, that one looks all dried up.
When it comes to the melons, to start, we really just like to chop it up and enjoy it. Just eat it. The cantaloupe, the watermelon, we will be eating watermelon for as long as we can until we are sick of it. Same with the cantaloupe. And actually, this is our first year having success with cantaloupe. We didn't really have a lot of success with cantaloupe back in California, and we grew a few different varieties here. So there will be recipes on Byron's channel, and I will also be sharing here how we enjoy both of these, because I'm probably going to do a watermelon kombucha video. I've made kombucha in the past on my channel. Also, possibly some other ways to use cantaloupe. But at the very beginning, we just enjoy eating it. I chop it up, I put it in a bowl. It's so good for you. It's fresh, it's delicious. We are just so excited that it's coming from our own garden. It's the best feeling ever. Also, a gift from the garden is always appreciated if we're going to be visiting someone or someone's coming over. A big old watermelon from the garden just always makes people smile, and it's just such a happy thing. So this time of the year, we consume so much freaking watermelon, and now cantaloupe, which I'm very excited about because cantaloupe is so good for the skin. It's so good for you, and I'm also saving the seeds. So the way that I'm going to do that is I literally scooped them out, and then I'm just going to run them over a strainer under water. And then set them out to dry, and I have seeds for next year. And I also love to gift and share seeds. The great thing about seeds is you just get so many if you do harvest your seeds that you can share and have plenty for the next year, which is just really exciting. I love gifting seeds and produce. It's just the best. We have been picking some of the tomatoes early before they ripen on the vine, and we've just been setting them out to ripen outside. It just prevents them from getting eaten by critters, and putting them on the porch, we haven't really had any issues with bug pressure or anything, and you can see some of them are starting to ripen, and the newer ones need a few more days outside to ripen. But I'm going to start today by using the dehydrator. Now I am going to do some canning that will be coming up in upcoming videos. There's a lot of different ways because we have so many tomatoes. There's just a lot that we're going to do to process the tomatoes. We have a lot of hatch chilies. Byron is from New Mexico, so we have a lot of plans for that, and also just everything in the garden. We're going to try to make use of everything. So right now I'm going to be using the dehydrator today to dehydrate the tomatoes, to do kind of like a sun-dried tomato. There's 3 different ways you can do that. You can either literally dry them outside, but pending the temperature and humidity, it can be a little hard to do that. You can also do it in the oven, but we have a dehydrator, which I love to use for drying herbs. I also love to use it for dehydrating fruits and veggies, and I'm going to try to share more ways that I use our dehydrator because it's definitely a little bit of an investment, but well worth it. So we're going to do a sun-dried tomato, and that way we can keep these and we can just preserve the many, many tomatoes that we have, and that's just one way to preserve them. We're also going to dehydrate the hatch chilies as well. And those are great for gifts. Again, since Byron is from New Mexico, everybody loves their hatch chilies, and there's lots of ways to use it. We have several recipes that we enjoy, but we are going to dehydrate a portion of them. And I will keep you posted on what I do and some of the other ways that we process and preserve our harvest. Now, I will link the dehydrator that we use, but my husband has previously worked in restaurants where he used Excalibur food dehydrators, and that was what he recommended that we get. There's different settings depending on what you are dehydrating, and they turned out beautiful. So now I can put the sun-dried tomatoes in a mason jar. We will likely be taking these and turning them into powder. For now, I'm just gonna save them until we decide officially what we're gonna do. We also might do some oil infusions. but I'm gonna have to kind of think about what I want to do with that. But I wanted to get some of these dehydrated just because we still have a pretty large harvest of tomatoes and several other things to get to as well. As you can see here, we're about a third of the way through our harvest. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like my channel, please be sure to subscribe, thumbs up this video, and leave a comment below. And I'll see you very soon in the next one. Bye.